Hello everyone, my name is Dark, and I'm here with no one to bring you EWOW 12B. This episode is going to be very special, but I'll talk about why that's the case in a bit. In the meantime, grab yourself a snack, buckle up, and get comfy because we're powering through this like any good speedrunner would. In keeping with the pattern of having a technical restriction every 4 rounds, our prompt this time around was, you're a monster who wants to live in human society, but your strange nature makes that difficult. What's one odd aspect of yourself, and how do you pass it off as normal? You cannot use words with, odd lettered number counts. Well, that's a blunder, whoops. Although this prompt prevented you from using just about half the words in the English language, our contestants prove once again that the indifferent cruelty of technical restrictions is no match for the indomitable EWOW spirit. As only 9 out of 574 responses broke this restriction, and 6 of those did so intentionally. If it wasn't obvious at this point, pretty much everyone still in is very good at this game, and more than capable of taking on even the toughest writing challenges. Still, out of the 452 responders, only 231 are gonna catch one of those coveted safe spots, and just 22 will get the honor of going into unlucky EWOW 13 with a lucky extra response. And as always, the results have been carefully decided by 434 voters like you who cast 2,010 votes like you. Hello! Responses this round got 34.7 votes on average, far from our record for the season, but still higher than last time, so I guess we'll take it. That being said, every response got at least 15 votes, proving once and for all that even the most unwieldy monsters are still deserving of love and attention. That is, up to a dozen or so times at a minimum, and then a couple more dozen added randomly on top of that. And as always, extra thanks go out to all the legends who came in clutch and used their full voting power to rate these responses. And of those people, here are the 5 our little Python script decided to stochastically spit out the names of: X-Rai, Bromeo Wuggles, MVCB2, Mazua, and Blue Gelatin. Congratulations! But alright, enough of these cringe numbers. We're here to see the based numbers, such as the winning percentile for this round of EWOW. Given how stacked the competition is getting, as well as the natural difficulty factor of this prompt having a very restrictive technical, I think it's pretty expected that the winning percentile is going to continue to drop. What people might not have expected, however, was for the top score to tank all the way down to 75.34%, nearly 10% lower than last time. Needless to say, it's harder than ever to stand out nowadays, but nonetheless, one player stands tallest among the approximately 471 responders, and that player is Nindragon. Her response was, my shadow doesn't appear. Accuse Earth's moderators claiming I'm shadow banned. Officially captivating the pun lovers and/or gamers and/or banned users and/or shadow creatures of this here voter base. Congratulations on that spot, you're our 12th round winner. Anyhow, up next is the rest of the top 20. But let's be real here. We've done the same format in the same order for so many episodes at this point, so let's shake it up just a little. In 7th place, Lyrical Tyrant scores a prize with some nice wordplay to explain their zombie vocal stems, but it appears that maybe ditching the wordplay and going simpler might have been the play here, as Sikto Abu lands an even better 4th place with a dig at sleep-deprived students, something that seems to be very relatable with the EWOW voters and team members. In 12th place, Mitochondrial Bob's scientific response scores a smidge above 70, proving that bioluminescence is the powerhouse of this Google Sheets cell. Watch out though, Bob. Careful not to bump into Snoozing Newt, who may just be camouflaging into the very same film sets you're working at using his photosynthetic powers. 8th placer Treeco is trying to find an excuse for their loudness, but Shorkey down below suggests that some monsters might prefer things to be quiet instead. Such dichotomy! Luckily, coming in to break the tie for us, our silver medalist Cloudy Skies responds with, no mouths, conveniently artistic. Modeling within exhibits, analysts praise censorship messages, proving that just about anything can be an artistic statement if you're perceptive enough to see it. ALITL and Water Chestnut play sequentially with ghost-related responses, and they're also joined by #1 champion of forcing us to mispronounce their name, Kuminda Water Supply, sharing some burdensome ghost trauma. Once again, it seems as if the version of this concept without any wordplay actually did the best. Anyhow, to any nearby towers, you better stay safe around Penguin, whose excitement for birdwatching appears to be hiding a sinister bloodlust beneath it. But don't panic, if you do end up getting injured, Lemon Venom's got you covered with their sleek, sympathy-garnering bandages. Up above, Azurite lands a stellar 5th place, reminding us that even the most cruel and devilish creatures we can come up with are no match for the real monster in human society. And to close out the podium, our bronze medalist this time around is Gizmote, whose response was, "My antenna? Bought this electronic headband online. They're useful Wi-Fi boosters," improving on Trico's strategy of appealing to the Zoomers out there with phone-related concepts. And now, to close out the top 10, coming in to dash anyone's hopes of ever seeing this frontrunner spot change hands again, Loser bags yet another top-tier performance with her doppelganger's response, which presents quite a funny therapy scenario to imagine. But maybe you don't have to just imagine it. If you squint hard enough, you might start seeing double in this leaderboard already, with ZX and Brandy placing back-to-back with two very syntactically similar responses. In 16th place, we have who submitted a comedic response about brainless zombies blending into one of the smartest professions possible. Very well put together for someone whose name is infinitely more concise than any other responses. And last but not least, in 15th place is Xry, of having been mentioned in the voter shoutout segment about 4 minutes ago fame. Normally, the last thing you'd want to see in your neighborhood is a rabid wolf running around, but Xry's response proves that voters seem to be just fine with them so long as they're teaching kids their ABCs, or rather, their AIOUs. Anyway, we're now done with the top 20. At this point in the episode, normally we'd cut to a stats segment and begin discussing the round at large, but this is where this episode is going to be special. You see, having 452 participants this round marks a very important milestone. This round has fewer contestants than the original 12 Season 1 did when it started. Seeing as the competition has shrunk so much, it feels weird to give recognition to just the top 20 when all of you have done so well to get to this point. So I'm gonna amend that by giving you all a little bit more recognition. For the first time ever, let's dip below the top 20 and see what the rest of the leaderboard has in store for us. Ready, set, go. In 21st is the Pink Bunny Empire, who came gut-wrenchingly close to becoming the first person to have placed in the top 20 6 times. And at last, we have J-Dude, who scraped prizing this round, and Catworld, who, flunched prizing this round. Sorry Catworld, no extra response for you. Elsewhere in the top 39, we see perennial dominators Scorb and number 30 Sigma Rizlord clocking in some solid performances once again, and 11th placer Snoozing Newt necromantically raising a second response to just outside the prize region. Down a bit lower, TR places with a response strikingly similar to that of bronze medalist Gizmote, but unfortunately scores 7% lower. And what's this we see? Jujuma is scoring high with a stem pun in his response. Feels like 2016 again. Moving on from that, we see a near miss on a potential tragedy. Two planes came within 3 ranks of crashing into each other, but thankfully it looks like they're not intersecting after all. And their response topics, boring classes and exciting parties, don't seem to intersect either. Though I will say, intersecting planes' fire party could probably benefit from some fire beats. Luckily, Mini-Twow legend Sinister Shovel has us covered with their new experimental band. And finally, internet culture being what it is, I'm sure the audience is very excited to find out who got 69th place. Wanna know who it is? It's me! I've been here the whole time! As we approach the triple digits, we get the smorgasbord of historically dominant players, as we see tie Person, Plasmic Trojan, and Purple Gaze, all placing within a percent of each other, all with some sort of pun in their response. This just shows that great minds think alike, always coming up with gooder responses. Going further down, we have Speev, whose response lives up to their namesake by talking about deception in relationships. And in a shocking plot twist, it appears as if Eevee may just like vegetables more so than bread. I applaud you for staying healthy, but be careful. Eat too many greens and you might just turn into a Leafeon. As we dip below the 60% mark, we're starting to see a lot of extra responses. Who would have guessed that the players with a lot of lives tend to score high? Our previous round winner, Real Present Net of USA, continues the trend of my antennae responses that place 7% apart from each other. And that's all well and good, but if you're so keen on networking, maybe it's best to ditch the antennae and upgrade to fiber instead. Moving on, JCLK2 hangs on tight for the OGs with perhaps a self-referential response about being see-through. But regardless of how personally fitting it may be, don't let that distract you from Cashed Credits, who deserves credit of their own for cashing in a very similar response concept. Spooky. On to the next slide, where we see Just a Toad with the most controversial response of the entire safe zone, likely owing to her usage of extra S's to simulate snake sounds, but also to sneakily pass the technical by extending the word snake to have an even letter count. Was this smart or stupid? Solid or sleazy? It seems voters had a hard time deciding. Further down, the dude person guy places outside the top 150 with a response that was actually one of my personal favorites. But sadly, it seems like the bros bony beings benefiting biology classes didn't scan as nicely with other voters as it did with me. Bummer. Although you wouldn't notice it, because we don't include voter rating distributions in these leaderboards, It's Me Arnie has the highest placing response this round that nobody voted first. Which sounds harsh, but it's okay, Arnhem. You're still a winner in my heart, and also the hearts of everyone else who watched EWOW 9, but you know, my heart is more important. In the next slide, Remy writes a rhythmically rhyming pun that I personally thought was a bit underappreciated. And although you wouldn't notice it, because we don't include voter rating distributions in these leaderboards, Twiggy has the highest placing response this round that nobody voted first or second, which does also sound harsh, but it's alright, Twiggy. You're still second in my heart. And in Uwakim's. This next slide contains our 200th placer. Completing a duo centurion of EWOWers, it's none other than noted NATO alphabet enthusiast Papa Charlie Mike. Striking again with a pretty nice pun, but submitting a Gorgon response in a round with this many Medusa references, I'm sorry Pseudo, but I'm afraid that's going to be a strike for you. And finally, this slide brings us to the verge of the danger zone. Here we see an assortment of certified old heads like Super Hyper and Afe, as well as certified new gens like Normalben and Garth. Even if you all didn't score so well, I commend you on managing to sneak into the safe zone regardless. But there are only 231 safe spots this round, and 228 people have been revealed. If you haven't seen your name show up yet, the odds are looking slim for you. Only 3 more people can be declared safe here, so let's just rip the band-aid off. The last 3 people to achieve safety are It's Brick, Dime, and finally, EWOW 9B host Clover Pepsi. And so that brings us to the end of the safe zone and the start of the elimination zone. Commiserations to everyone who placed here, but especially to Algotistic, who came so close yet so far from preserving one of their lives. Now we're gonna scroll through the remainder of the leaderboard. If you haven't placed yet, you can try to find yourself in there, I guess. And while we see our beloved contestants fall one by one, let's discuss a couple of miscellaneous statistics. Usually around this point, we would show score histograms and whatnot, but they're honestly not as interesting once we get down to a low enough number of people. And regardless, there isn't a whole lot to mention about them either this time around. Naturally, some monsters were more common than others. The aforementioned Medusa was talked about in 20 responses, werewolves were mentioned in 29, and our most common monster was actually vampire with 30 mentions, despite the fact that it was one of the examples we gave in 11B. Funny enough though, none of those necessarily had any real impact on your score. Werewolves and vampires both averaged roughly 50%, and Medusa actually had a slight positive effect with 54. What had a higher effect on your performance, naturally, was the amount of responses you had. The median rank of everyone who had 3 responses this round was 55th, which is just under the top 10%. For true responses, the median was 121st, and the single response players had a median of 267th, or slightly below the halfway mark. As for the next round, 11 contestants are going to go in with triple response prizes, and another 52 are going to have a double response prize to their name, meaning we'll have up to 74 extra responses in play next round, on top of the living contestant count, which we'll discuss with this next graph. The life count chart, life decay accounted for, looks like this. Another round of eliminations comes and goes, and we are now left with 406 living EWOW contestants. As with the responder count from earlier, this round marks the point where the competition is officially smaller than WoW Season 1 was. But back then, placing 406th merely meant being in the top 83%. Here, less than 2.5% of the contestants are left. So if you're still in, pat yourself on the back because it's been no small feat to get here. As you can also see, there are now very few people above 3 lives, a mere 21 to be exact, which itself is just 5% of the contestant pool. As life decay continues, the playing field is going to become more and more balanced, which should hopefully lead to some very exciting competition for these elite few hundred contestants. I myself can hardly wait. As usual, the Normalized ranks board features mostly marginal changes. The top 6 remain the same 6 people, but in a slightly shuffled order, and with very close margins between everyone in the top 8. Everyone except for Luzard, who continues to pull way ahead of everyone else with her top 10 performance this round. IRDM returns to the top 15 after having fallen out of it a couple episodes ago, and Shorkey makes her first appearance, taking the 12th place spot. The rolling Normalized ranks board, on the other hand, is where the real shakeups usually lie, and this time is no different. Only one competitor has prized in all 3 of the past 3 rounds, and expectedly they're the one who takes the current rolling frontrunner spot. From 1st to 4th to 20th, Brandy snatches the gold this time around with their hat trick of top 20 performances. Quite a few competitors made the top 15 for the first time this episode, including Fonda, Shorkey, Water Chestnut, Arnoob, and Morality. Congratulations to everyone who made the top 15 in either category, and keep up the good performances. And at last, that's the entirety of the stats segment done. It's finally time for us to move ahead to EWOW 13. In case you don't remember, all the way back in EWOW 5, the 5th prompt was about going back in time and talking about the past. Today, all these rounds later, it's time for us to go full circle and talk about the future instead. The 13th prompt of EWOW is, what's the front page headline on the May 12th, 2063 edition of the New York Times? This prompt is quite distinct from most of the others we've done so far, and intentionally so. We're giving you plenty of choice in what type of headline to write. Dramatic, mundane, comedic, straightforward. It's up to you to decide what your future will look like. An example response to this would be, Mars colonization ships stop mid-flight, mistaking planet for red light. As per usual, the deadline will be around 5 days after the release of this episode, meaning you have until Friday, May 23rd, 2025, 11:59 PM PDT to submit your responses 1, 2, and 3. Remember to use the lovely EWOW.zone website for your response submissions. And that's all for now. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you didn't, that is fine. Although this competition has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably book-like. Ergo, some of my rounds you'll prize in, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your latest response may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize that from now on, it is also the most irrelevant. And if you did enjoy it, see you in EWOW 13A! Alright, I know it's going to be a bit awkward that I just signed off the episode and I'm speaking again, and this is certainly going to be a bit of a tonal shift, but I still have something I want to end off on. Over the course of the past 11-ish months, I've helped voice, produce, coordinate, and/or edit practically every single EWOW episode ever since Carrie handed things off to us, and it's been an amazing experience to provide something of this scale to this community which I owe so much to. And while it has been fun, managing EWOW is challenging work, and it's caused me and the other coordinators quite a lot of stress at times, having to balance it with all our other obligations. Unfortunately, I'm now in a spot in my life where I can't really afford that anymore, and it'd be very unhealthy for me to continue. So, with the release of this episode, I'm officially stepping down from my role as coordinator and leaving the EWOW team in full capacity. I hope all of you have enjoyed the stuff I've appeared in and helped create, and that my work has affected you positively in any way whatsoever. I have full faith that the rest of the team will continue to deliver excellent episodes in my absence, and that EWOW will continue to thrive regardless. Anyhow, on that note, now more than ever, the EWOW team could use some more collaborators again. We are going to be reopening the EWOW team member applications and seeking to bring in more people to help produce these episodes. So if you're interested, please apply using the form link in the description, and maybe also join the Twile Central Discord server, also linked below, for more details and updates on the selection process. And well, that's about all for me. Signing it off one last time, my name is Dark, and thank you for watching.